Coming up on this episode of The Extra Mile.
We have a number of goals and challenges, with coastal Mississippi, our new tourism, organization that includes Hancock, Harrison, and Jackson, and some leadership that understands the reach, frequency and reach.
Hey football fans, game day is here. To avoid delays on the way to the game, make sure the MDOT traffic app is part of your playbook. To avoid fumbles this season, MDOT encourages safe driving. That means buckle up, obey the speed limit, and avoid distracted driving, especially in work zones. For more information, follow @Mississippi DOT on Facebook and Twitter.
That's nearly $2 billion, and that's money that's going to be spent on improving safety, enhancing mobility, and improving economic growth and development in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah, and with this historic funding from the legislature, new construction will be popping up all over Mississippi.
MDOT presents the Extra Mile Podcast.
Men and women of the Department of Transportation are up to the task and up to make sure that we deliver a product that the taxpayers can be proud of. So I'm ready for us to go to work.
Welcome in to another edition of the Extra Mile Podcast presented by the Mississippi Department of Transportation. I'm MDOT Deputy Director of Public Affairs, Paul Catul, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Will Kraft, the Director of Public Affairs at the agency. And listen, we're recording this episode on Monday, October 2nd. We're in the midst of one of the biggest, coolest events in Mississippi, in my opinion, Cruisin the Coast, happening right here in Biloxi along the coast. So we are on location in Biloxi City Hall, and we're here to talk to Mayor Andrew FoFo Gilich, who was elected mayor of Biloxi by special election in May of 2015 and was elected to his first full term in June of 2017. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us today, having us in City Hall.
Great having you down here. We're always happy to talk about things happening down here. And, of course, you're good friends with Brad and that group up there. I've known him right after our special election, when he was in D.C. with Keith Hurd and that whole group of Senator Cochran's group. And it was just a tremendous group and worked with, some real good folks.
That's right.
Over the years. I'm just couldn't be more happy to work with MDOT and to work with somebody who understands, what the goal is. And it's really a challenge every day, with regard to the last 3 years has been unbelievable. And so the next 3 years it will be, I hope, as unbelievable and good, because we've been in pretty good shape down here.
I think they will.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. So for all of our first-time guests, we like to get to know them a little bit better. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about your background, how you came to become an elected official, the mayor of Biloxi?
How long? We have an hour? 2 hours?
We'll do the shortened version of it.
Well, I'm originally from Biloxi, and my parents and grandparents came from Croatia. We'll get into a little bit of that last year, about 1900. And so I've been, the Biloxi DNA has been in me and my family. I married another Croatian person. And, again, it was something that you got to do for your hometown. My biggest opportunity, look, my grandparents and my parents did something for me. I'm going to do something for my grandkids. In a nutshell, that's what drives me. And it drives me every day. My foot is on the pedal all the time.
I know it's true.
Brad will tell you that. Brad will tell you that.
Well, keep it on that same line there, and I didn't know any of that about your history, so that's pretty fascinating. I would have never guessed. So it was similar, the nickname, FoFo.
Well,
where'd that come from?
Two older brothers, and one was 16 years older than me, and still around. He was tax assessor for 40-something years in Biloxi, Mississippi, or Harrison County. And he would read Jack and the Beanstalk, and there's a place for fee, five, fo, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so he said, well, he'd read that out, fo, 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 all over up 2 years old, 3 years old. Anyway, that hung. And everybody in Biloxi has a nickname. You heard my buddy Ruby, so everybody has a handle. It goes back to a little bit of Croatian. We kind of segueing into the Croatian kinds of. There's a convention that you're always named after your grandfather if you're the first male. So that's why I've got 150 cousins and first cousins and second cousins around you, but you can always see there's an Antone or there's a Michael or there's an Andrew. So everybody developed a nickname, okay? Junior or so that's what a little bit of, like I said, in a nutshell, real fast.
That's
so you
pretty
had
good.
to have a nickname, and everybody did have a nickname. Or if they came in from out of town, like my grandfather, Gilich, from the Gilich side, he came, migrated from Croatia about 1908, 10, something like that, to Chicago. Came from Chicago to Biloxi.
Okay.
So his nickname was what? Chicago.
Well, hey, look, let's just parlay right off into that. It is something, we've got lots of great stuff to talk about, all things going on in Biloxi, which is a lot. You guys are slam-packed as far as scheduling and fun stuff going on. But one thing I did happen to see, we had the president of Croatia, and I know I'm going to mispronounce this, and I apologize. I'm just going to let you have it, actually. Was it Zoran?
Zoran Milanovic.
There we go. And the first,
And
his first lady?
His first lady was actually Sonia Music, but it's spelled like music.
Oh, okay.
Music,
Okay.
Milanovic, and what a treat. And then we had Sonia Lakovic, who was the general counsel from Chicago, and also
Okay.
the ambassador to the United States from Croatia. His name was Pierre Simonovic, and we knew Sonia and Pierre from a previous visit. But about 6 weeks ago, he said, Mayor, I need you. I have something for you to consider, a proposal for you to consider. I said, well, anything, Pierre, because we, like I said, visited with him. He's a good, very cool guy. And everyone speaks English,
Okay.
So they all, 2-3 languages. But anyway, he says, okay, the president of Croatia will be at the United Nations General Assembly. And, there's a bunch of Croatian communities across the country. So anyway, he said, but he wants to visit Biloxi. So that was on the 22nd. Now, I said, you can't say no. But what just so happened, we were in the middle of our Slavic Invitational. This is our 48th Slavic Invitational golf tournament. That's
Right.
over 5 golf courses, over 800-something people playing. That's going on in the middle of this visit, okay? You can't imagine. So this organization that I belong to, Slavic Benevolent Association, Savonia Lodge, this goes back 100 years. Matter of fact, this year we'll be celebrating 110th anniversary of the organization, 1913. So all this is happening, last week, all this happening, and I probably lost about 10 pounds doing this, but this room was packed with Senator Wicker and our Speaker of the House, the governor, and, everybody, a lot of judges, and just a real cool event. Well, we'll show you some pictures. They'll have some, so maybe you can show it.
Yeah.
And, these people were just so fascinating, so unbelievable. I told them how friendly and how hospitable we are. That's a Southern thing, okay?
Sure.
You might be Southern Croatia, whatever, but this is, a thing that brings everybody back. I was just talking about conferences and conventions and so forth. Our trick for Mississippi and tourism is to get them here once and experience what we have, and you're coming back. You're coming back for a lot of reasons, and you may choose to live, here because, hey, it's cool, have all these generals and colonels that come through Keesler.
Right.
I tell them, I said, look, if you don't choose to retire here, I haven't done my job. This is I'm gonna ramble here a little bit. 'Cause I'm gonna tell you a little bit about, Fred Hayes. You know who Fred Hayes is? Apollo 13. Just probably, if you remember Neil Armstrong and Apollo 11, but everybody remembers Apollo 13. He was a Biloxian, and just a tremendous, so smart. We built a statue down at the lighthouse. But he tells a story about Biloxi, and it was true, that this was a sleepy little town. It had a little hospitality, a little tourism, of about 15,000 to 18,000 people, up until 1941. 1941 came along, what happened? World War II, right? Okay. Our grandparents' generation said, okay, we want you to open a base, an Army base, Army Air Force base, right?
Okay.
1941 comes along, and it pops to about 100,000 people, almost overnight.
Oh, wow.
And so that's why we had, along that street that you see in our background, almost every form of entertainment, that you can imagine, whether it was, food and drink and partying and gambling and all this other stuff. Fred tells a story that, he said, I was a good kid. I was did my paper route. My parents trusted me. I made good grades. But I'll tell you one thing. They let me go to a place called, and the building's still there, it's called the Union Bar. He says, I learned geometry from all these pool hustlers coming from all over the place on payday, because they let all these people out on payday, and they come to these bar rooms and they watch top-notch, the hustler kind of pool games. He says, I really did learn geometry from watching that. So I mean, it was just a great place to live, and it still is, and for me, the best. Other than when I was in Houston and doing those things for school, I'm back here, and like I said, I'm got my foot on the the pedal to make sure that it goes on and on and on and on. 324 years right now, as far as Biloxi.
Yeah.
So it's going to go on. As a matter of fact, the president of Croatia, Milanovic, said, Biloxi is not anything new for me, because one of my favorite plays was Neil Simon's Biloxi Blues.
Oh, really? Okay.
So, so that was,
So he's used to it. He likes coming back to
familiarity. He knew a little bit
familiarity.
about this, that's right. So we welcomed, in our own Croatian way, in our own Biloxi way, welcomed here, and he enjoyed it, really did.
That's two questions in a row I've got a lot of history context on. I didn't know either one of those at all. I know, and we'll just keep right on rolling. I mean, as you just mentioned, foot on the pedal. That could not be more true. Hopefully everybody doesn't have too heavy of a foot, because you got Cruisin the Coast going on right now, man.
We expect about 5,000 cars, right, on Wednesday. It's
growing every year, hasn't
it? It's 9,000, I think, registered already.
Wow.
Wow.
It's the biggest in the country. A little bit a while back, it's kind of modeled after hot August nights in Reno. But it's, like I said, now it's spread over 12 municipalities, from Waveland all the way past Kagula.
We learned on the way down.
Yeah, you can see. We just went to lunch, and we're always arguing. But I'm a product of the 40s, 50s, and 60s. I used to build model cars, so I could tell you from building what year, whatever, to the 70s and 80s. After I got married in '68, I've been married 55 years.
Congrats.
Yes.
Yeah.
Congrats.
But congrats to my wife, because she's putting up with me for 55 years. But like I said, a little Croatian girl that lived up down the street. But it's amazing, because all that bunch I hang around with, oh yeah, no, that's a 57. No, it's a 56.
So y'all love this.
Oh yeah, no, it's like heaven, it really is.
So I think it got started yesterday.
I had to sell my 65. I graduated in 65 from high school here, and I wanted up until I think I bought a 65 Chevelle with a little bit of hot engine, 383 stroke engine, all the bells and whistles, 4-speed. And but my wife convinced me. Says, it's time. You don't put them in. You got to drive these cars. And I don't go to other shows or anything. I just crank it up and go through the gears. But I did sell it last year. So. Anyway.
Man. So any plans to get another?
No, not yet.
No?
No, I don't know. You never can tell. I won't say no.
You're just going to ride with other folks
Yeah,
right now.
that's a ticket.
There you go. Listen, so we wish everyone a very successful Cruisin the Coast this year. Really, really cool stuff. But there's also some other stuff going on. It's spooky season out there. What's going on with Halloween in the city of Biloxi?
Yeah, Halloween, like I said, it comes every year. It used to be Ole Miss and LSU on that weekend.
Yeah.
That happened last week. And long story, my grandson, my second oldest grandson, was one of the Mike the Tigers. Mike, mascot. He's been at LSU for a number of years. But anyway, there's a lot of cool things happening in the neighborhoods, and they come out the woodwork, and everybody sees these 20-foot skeletons and
oh gosh,
things like that. But it's like I said, safe, friendly, and beautiful. Beautiful. That's our a mantra, and we hope it continues.
Well, and one thing you mentioned, beautiful, safe, friendly, all those things, beautiful. We have recently launched our new anti-litter messaging getting out there, but I did see on the community calendar, you have a couple of cleanup events.
Yeah.
I mean, how important is that to you guys?
Oh, it is. I mean, first thing, you go to Disneyland or Disney World in Florida, hey, that's a big thing. And today, and that's what some of the challenges we had in coming over the last 3 years since 2020. Keep them engaged in doing the things they need to do. But we've been very fortunate about a number of visitors we've had. 4.3 million visitors. I got 7,000 hotel rooms right here, and so within a mile radius from this spot.
That's crazy.
You get Boulder by 1,700 right there, about 1,200 here, another at IP, and then down if I go to the Nugget, there's another few thousand.
And I have seen them all booked.
Yeah, it's amazing on the weekends. I mean, they get some good prices, and they're full. Our challenge is to put people in heads in beds during the middle of the week. Some of those conferences that people, you can get some challenging, some really creative rates, $100, $149, and those kind of things that are doable.
Very competitive.
In midweek. So we have a number of goals and challenges, with coastal Mississippi, our new tourism organization that includes Hancock, Harrison, and Jackson, and some leadership that understands the reach, frequency and reach.
It seems like there's just always outdoor, fun stuff, activities going on down here, and knock on wood, I don't want to put this evil on you guys, but it seems to be clean, relatively clean always. So folks do a good job. I would say, I guess maybe there's a good culture of taking care of your stuff.
I think so for the most part. It does get you upset. You see somebody throw something out
Sure.
the window. Boy, I go ballistic. But road rage and some of these other things you got to put, because it's crazy this world. With just a few miles down the road. I'm talking about in Louisiana, sometimes in Alabama too. That you don't want to see these kids and adults get sideways with stuff and wind up with something that you can't undo.
Yeah, to the best of our ability, we want to keep going, right? We're just trying to get
That's
home.
it. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
For sure. So don't trash Mississippi, don't trash Biloxi. Well, listen, we want to take this back to MDOT a little bit. I know you mentioned you work at, even though this is a local city, you work with MDOT, you work with Brad White. Talk about maybe the I-110 bridge repairs.
Well,
anything else going on with MDOT?
Before I get into I-110, because that was kind of tragic, and
Sure,
the timing was there. But even cruising, I think it was 2 years ago when Brad and I in coastal Mississippi, over the years, about 4 years ago, we had a buildup of sand. You see that sand coming off the beach, right?
Yeah.
And that's MDOT maintains Highway 90, and we do part, the north side, and the county has some of the beach side and so forth. But how many tons and tons and tons? It was a $2 million project jointly we did to clean it up prior to the Cruisin the Coast about 2 years ago. Right after Brad was got there.
And Miss Murtis Frank was wearing me out about it, man.
She does. I call her Murtis my guardian angel, because she knows when to show up, where to show up. I can tell you, it's just like having her on my shoulder right now.
If she tells me it's a good idea that it needs to be done, I just move forward with it.
Brad knows that.
That's right. That's right.
And so, but the I-110 is kind of an unfortunate thing where, it's more complex. Nobody thinks about the steel and some of the stuff that's in there, the precast, post-tension stuff that you've seen it in 9/11. When you get heat on something, it causes problems, and it's not an easy solution. So I know we're trying to, put the resources where we can get that stuff more gracefully off that bridge, but it all kind of wraps in. Some homeless and some trash, and you got to meet those challenges, and I kind of thrive on stress. Okay, so that's sort of the thing. There's always something that's going to say, I can promise you, stay in that office with me, won't be bored.
There's going to be something pop up. Yep.
But Brad's been tremendous, and the whole group, and I know that's going to be done, taken care of in a timely manner, and hopefully, I can't tell you when, but I know how things are when you get in that construction mode. I came on board in 2015. I had 55 miles of street torn up in a $340 million Katrina recovery. That's deep sewer, storm drain, water, and those kinds of surfaces and so forth. We've got about $100 million of that left right now.
Really?
Katrina,
wow.
Yeah. So you could see some of the progress in boring and going those something. It's been challenging. I know it's probably multiplied that by 10, the things that MDOT has to deal with. One little instance now, if a 34-foot hole is a deep hole.
It's a pretty big one.
In Biloxi, and it's, mud down here. So anyway, we used, in this Katrina recovery, we had a number of lift stations all over the city, about 170, 180 of them. So, you had to pump it up so it'd go, until it gets to, we had 2 wastewater we still have 2 wastewater treatment plants. Well, the Katrina project, recovery project, was saying, okay, we're going to let a gravity be your friend. Go from about 19 feet down to 34 feet down. So gravity is pushing that, and you don't have to pump it up and then pump it down. Well, that runs into all kinds of things. Well, at one point in time, down where the old Biloxi Cemetery was, they ran across some bones. Okay, and this was in 2017, I believe. Oh wow. So the first thing that happens is it's a timeout.
Yep.
Okay, make sure it's not prehistoric, being Indian graves and so forth. But over the years they put the 4-lane highway over the 2-lane highway, and anyway, wind up covering some of that stuff in the right of way.
Oh wow.
So it really took about a year to determine, and we sent it up to the laboratories and archaeologists and so forth at the state, and they analyzed the bones. Of course, it's probably a 200-year bones that was buried in a cemetery. but they determined that it was flat on one surface, so therefore it was not prehistoric. Indians didn't bury their dead in caskets. So
Right, sure.
So, but bottom line, just in case we saw these other anomalies, over about a 300 feet section, they drilled down, so they jack and bore underneath that, and that cost about 8, 9, 10 months, and then about $1 million. Other thing they ran across on the point, which is east of Biloxi, the last part, from the bridge on down this way.
Okay.
They about 19 feet down, they ran into creosote. Okay, your creosote pools up over the years. It's like a little pond of creosote. This is 19 feet down, which is, they don't let you use creosote to put in pilings there because it's so dangerous. So we had to remove 2,500 cubic yards of that in order to move forward. So time out.
I'm learning some stuff today.
Because Biloxi had oyster shells everywhere. They used that as instead of limestone, they had used that as base.
I did not know that, actually. Okay.
You can see pictures and so forth. But bottom line, that's another thing we ran into about a year ago. So having to take 2,500 cubic yards and take it to a hazardous landfill.
Oh my gosh.
And anyway, you don't want to hear about all those war stories, but I'm going to tell you, I learned more about construction than I really wanted to know.
Well, talking about that, I mean, do you feel like the coast is fully back, or maybe further than pre-Katrina?
Yeah, as far as infrastructure and for surface, we got most of the peninsula is new roads, new storm drains, new water, and new sewer. That's the main thing. You got these force mains. If you don't process that wastewater and waste, and not just garbage. I'm not talking. That's two different animals. I'm talking about. Look at how many homes that would be equivalent to 1,700 hotel rooms over there.
Oh yeah.
And so
Wow.
Or 1,100, 1,200 down here.
I can't imagine.
So I mean, it's like it just multiplies the complexity of
quickly.
What do you have to do? And you got all kinds of challenges with pressures and where it needs to wind up here. On this side of town and the west side of town, which we call it the west treatment plant. But it is what it is. I mean, we got to understand the complexity. I guess the operations of what happened, what needs to happen, when it needs to happen. Of course, things break down. We're over 300 years. Things break down. The initial sewer system was installed in 1957.
Oh wow!
Now I'm 10 years old in 1957. And it was only supposed to last like 20 years.
Wow.
So we
still rolling.
Yeah,
huh?
we kind of roll. Yeah, still rolling. Still breaks every day.
That's wild.
But the different technologies and so forth. Thank goodness for PVC and some of these things that you use, and the types and what the methods of concrete and some of those things that you see it every day. You go on 49, see what has been set up, and hopefully like the Romans for another couple hundred years.
There you go.
That's done.
Look, and I mean, I was not from the coast per se, but I love the coast, love to get down. But it feels like it used to me. I don't so much remember, Katrina and when it was going on. I was in junior high. I just got a couple weeks out of school from what I remember, so I had a very easy experience to it. But it kind of feels like everything's back to normal.
It's getting there. Like I said, we were worried. I was worried about the temperature of the water. And something happening bad, I'm still worried. We're not out of these stuff yet.
Sure, yeah, that's what I was about to mention. I know Will's about to hit you with some fun questions, but just one more thing, and you're the perfect person to kind of get this message out there. It is still hurricane season until November 30th, so just kind of let everyone know the importance of still being prepared and having everything ready in case something comes.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. We had a couple of late storms, and it really did some even tropical storms that hit. Yeah. It always hits you when you kind of least expecting. Oh man, got to deal with this tomorrow, or what's in it, and then you wrap the economics of the situation. What happened. What about Cruisin the Coast? It did happen to us one time doing Cruisin the Coast. Then again, Brad's favorite subject with me, evacuation routes and bridges. Okay, so Brad, this is for you. So I'm talking. We have one drawbridge, right? That if it gets stuck, you got to be open for marine traffic. That's the main thing. It was the marine traffic was there, so we're making sure at least it should be 4-lane over. Like after Katrina, they built a $300 million bridge. It requires no draw, and the marine traffic will not have to be impacted, so you could just go. So that was a goal. Those things just jump from $75 million to $200 million, and it's a big challenge. But I mean, that's part of the whole preparation. You know, you have one. This is a peninsula surrounded on 3 sides by water. You know, you get towards Gulfport, you still have a little bit of the industrial seaway, but they have some bridges. But we have, you know, up to Katrina, we had 3 kind of opening and closing bridges. That's a big challenge.
No doubt.
And so you always worry about that. But we did, I think it was about 4 years ago, have a scare. And we had, you know, you can see all these trailers and things, RVs. Yeah. So we had like 1,000 of those, you know, on the beach. He said, no, this thing's coming. It wouldn't turn out to be not so bad, but we said, okay, it's time to go.
Kind of the only way to be, yeah. It's kind of like our election, you're scared and unopposed. You know, either there is a storm or there isn't. We don't grade it in between.
That's it. Sure.
You just got to get out of town.
And let's go ahead and tease those hurricane prep resources. Yeah. You mentioned evacuation routes. So visit gomdot.com/hurricanes. You can find everything you need to know about your evacuation route. So anyway, we got the non-fun stuff over with.
Well,
this is fun. I mean, like, hey, I'll talk about anything you want to talk about.
I know. We got to come down for a part 2 on this. I feel like I've gotten so much info. I got to write it all out. Well, look, two quick mentions I want to throw out here, not directly related to your city here, but to the coast in general coming this way. We got the Buc-ee's that everybody's all excited about, man.
Oh, it is. I mean, it has its gravity. Okay?
Doesn't it?
You can go down, you know, go to the east and go to the west, you know, towards Texas, especially, you know, in Alabama, Florida area. Man, it just sucks it in.
It does.
Like a black hole. It brings that in. I know. 120 parking gas pumps, and so it's great.
I think they got that many stalls inside too.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the cleanest, nicest, biggest bathroom I think I've ever been in. And then another big one, fun thing, great thing that's coming on down here, the mega grant, the MDOT secured a couple of years ago, partnership with it. You got an I-10 going to 6 lanes, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, right. And that's a big thing. I know when you travel, if you got 6 lanes, then you can do some things that make it graceful. I noticed between Orlando and where I-10 tees into 75 and 85. Yeah, and I don't know what the law is, but most of the 18-wheelers, which you know at night, you know, where you have 3 lanes, you could park those 18-wheelers in the middle and only, you know, have a safer, because you don't want to get boxed in when an 18-wheeler.
No, that's right.
That 3 lanes, you know, in each direction, really makes a difference, and that, I'm excited about that. And you look at the traffic count.
Yeah.
You know, and you look at the marketing studies. You look at those traffic counts on I-10. You know. And that turns into economics.
There are quite a few people riding around out here.
Yes.
Even the gaming, you know, you're going to say, if that's pumping 60,000, 100,000 a day, I'm going to get. I mean, this is science. This is not rocket science. This is economic science. I'm going to get my share. So that gives me opportunity. I mean, so. You know, not directly, I can't give you a formula.
Sure,
but
right.
I can guarantee you that's part of these people that know that business. You know, you look at me traffic counts at different spots, and, you know, Brad knows all of this. He understands, you know, it may not be obvious to why would you put all this money in this kind of road or this kind of opportunity, because it does translate to real dollars, and, you know, eventually the quality of life and the economic opportunities will show itself.
As we've been talking about, we have 269 coming up on our 5-year anniversary, opposite end of the state. Mm-hmm. But talking about strategic investments and looking at something like that, it's kind of the same thing we're talking about, I-10. You're connecting all this existing industry and commerce that's already going and just expanding that, getting the traffic moving faster. As a state, we love it. We love these strategic, well-thought, forward-thinking, you know. And I'm glad I'm not the one making those decisions. I'm sure there are lots of people out there that are glad it ain't me making them, but we're very appreciative of them. And you've talked a lot about relationships with Brad and the commissioners. I know you got Commissioner King coming up on retirement here. And then we have another commissioner coming in, and Commissioner Simmons. Have you ever worked with Simmons, Commissioner King or Simmons in the past?
With King, yeah.
Sure.
And you know, it's always something. I understand, you know, their position. I understand Brad's position.
Sure,
I mean, it's complex, and you know, everybody kind of jockeys on this what it means to me, and Brad's in the middle of it. He's in the jackpot, you know, but you know, he can handle it.
That's right.
He's. But, you know, it is complex. And what he had done in his prior life, you know, with regard to with the governor and with of course, Senator Cochran and some of the budgetary things, I mean, he's got a grasp of what the real deal is. And, you know, how do you balance and how you juggle.
Yeah, glad it's him. Right, glad it's him, not me. Well, Paul, kick us off on some of the fun questions, man.
Let's go. I'm not going to take your food question. That's the Will Craft question, but I will take the music question. We love food and music and public affairs at MDOT, so go ahead and tell us your favorite musician, maybe band.
Well, I go back a long way from the 60s, okay? I'm from about
Love
the
it.
ninth grade. I got a picture in that room over there, and I'll let you take a picture when I was in 10th grade. That was the first time we appeared. I had a part of a rock and roll band with a few horns.
No kidding.
It brings me back to, there was a band out of Carolinas called the Swinging Medallions. It was a double shot of My Baby's Love. I don't know if you heard that.
I have not.
Anyway, that was some of my, and I play a little bit of the keyboards and holler and scream a little bit, but there's a place called Ground Zero right on the corner, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, a couple of the bands, of course, the Beatles and some of these other things that you kind of grew up with me in the 60s, and the rhythm and blues, Otis Redding and Wilson Pickett, and, those kinds of things with plenty of horns, plenty of things. And of course, today, we got every kind of performer at the Coliseum, but I've had real fortunate to be able to. Billy Hughes is a tremendous drummer and a tremendous talent.
Yeah.
But I never took any music because I just played by ear. But we got up and we played in Havana, Cuba, and they thought I was Paul McCartney on the keyboard.
Really?
But and of course, I played things. There was a band called the Kingsmen. Louis.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
no. Anyway, so I played that in a double shot and a couple of other ones. But anyway, that's the kind of. And I got a strange sense of music. So I mean,
I love it.
So from one, even Taylor Swift to where we are.
Absolutely.
It just. I hear it. I go bang. I got a piano and keyboards and so forth. So if I hear it, it's like therapy. I go home and play 10 minutes of music.
I agree.
If I hear something that I kind of grew up with, but those are the kinds of things that really, get me rolling. But that's Biloxi. Everybody had a little band. I was in the generation in the '60s, and
That's awesome.
we played all up and down. Between we played at Ole Miss a couple of times, and we played at. In Florida, Panama City, and it was a great experience for a kid,
No doubt.
And
That is cool.
What about, all those travels and going on, what about your favorite concert that you ever got to go to?
well, I tell you what my favorite concert was a few years ago in New Orleans, the opening Paul McCartney tour.
Really?
It was the best concert I've ever been. Of course, my concert days with James Brown and Ray Charles, and just I didn't get to see the Beatles. I saw Dave Clark 5. Really, we had to play music in one of the places that night at the Beatles, in New Orleans, and it was a '64, I believe. I think we made $200 for the gig, and I missed seeing the Beatles that night.
Oh man, for $200.
So that was crazy. But anyway, that's part of part of the beauty and love of
That's awesome.
of music. But it always gets me moving.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit the food question. Let's
Yeah,
eat.
absolutely.
If
So
I see food, you can eat it. Man.
that's right. And he said he's on a seafood diet. If he sees food, he eats it down here.
I do.
Well, look, I know it may be a little difficult to pick a favorite spot kind of in the district here, in the home base, but if you have one, we're certainly happy to listen.
Well,
what about maybe outside when you don't get to get to very often, but anytime you're in this neck of the woods, got to go there.
Well, right down the street, half-shell oysters, and they're the best bang for the buck. I mean, we'll hit there for lunch. If Brad comes in, we'll go. That's where we go to lunch. Keith heard. And of course we have the Ground Zero, which is pretty different kinds of stuff. Same that was in the Delta, but you have Mary Mahoney's, that's where we took the president of Croatia the other day.
Can't go wrong.
So and some of the real flavorful things, the shrimp and of course the stuffed snapper and some of these other things that are perfect. You can really knock yourself out on, hey man, well, this is what I feel like today. Even tacos, okay? I love tacos, actually my wife makes some good ones, but we got about $50 million worth of redevelopment of the old Barks building down there where Ground Zero is, and it'll be different kinds of venues of food and beverage, of course.
Anything you've been to lately that's kind of new that you hadn't really been to before?
Epinola.
Okay.
It's right down the road. It's got little pockets of. I'm not sure what you call it, but you got
Epinola.
two.
Epinola. Okay.
It's right down the road. Coffee and breakfast and salads and stuff like that. That just recently opened 2 of them here. in Biloxi.
We came into Patio 44 for lunch today, so
Yeah, that's
not
good too.
It was very
we
good.
call it patio FoFo.
There
I like
we go.
it.
See?
Yeah.
I
That's
knew
a good. I usually eat the pecan chicken there. I don't know if that was.
One of our people got it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I want to add one. My favorite late night spot is the filling station.
Oh yeah, it's right around the corner.
The
You
crawfish nachos
Yeah,
are just excellent.
And Pyran's is down there. That's another Cajun. It's right around by the Sanger Theater. We're working on trying to get that little event tied into all of the downtown stuff. But that's a good, nice little walk-up restaurant right by the Nativity BBM Church. And anyway, there's a lot of cool stuff that you just happen to. What do you feel like today? And you pull up to anything.
We're going to have to go eat second lunch, as Roy, I think, mentioned on the way.
Yes.
We're going to have to do second lunch.
No doubt.
That's awesome. Those were great suggestions. Great suggestions.
For sure, for sure. Well, Mayor Gilich, we appreciate your time. We appreciate the education on a variety of topics. Thank you so much.
Well, we just started. We could do another hour if you want to.
I
We'll
love
do
it,
it.
man.
Save it for another day.
Absolutely.
How long y'all going to be down for? You going to be around here Wednesday?
We're
No, we're headed back today, but hey, we'll come back,
Come
man.
back Wednesday. Yeah, we're going to do a little super talk. Wednesday's going to be the block party.
Okay.
You don't have to work. Just come on back.
I love it. Hey, Brad, you heard that.
When you go
Yes.
out, when you go out there, usually every day we have a shrimp tour train, and Carla Bourget, Carla Ciccone, drives and tells everything about Biloxi. Drives like a little 2 trailers with people. Well, they'll come up here and they know I'm working in the corner room. They'll see my truck outside, and they'll say, "Fo." I'll come out there and go through that window. And maybe take your picture. We'll do another little shot. But you go out there, you feel like you're the Pope or South American dictator. You wave to the people. That's every day. It's pretty much every day.
I love it, man.
Love that.
Yeah, we got a sneak peek of the setup out here, but we're definitely going to have to come back and see it live and in action.
Yeah, well, like I said, it happens 3 or 4 times a year. First, of course, this block party, which there'll be be all kinds of music on across the street. There'll be a band stage over here, and some of my buddies that have some of the old cars that I grew up with. There'll be about 40 cars right in that parking lot.
Wow.
That they knock me over and say, I need a space. You got a space. But then everything that you can see from this way to that way, there'll probably be 4,000 cars here.
No shortage of good times.
No
And
shortage
of course,
of
at
good
Mardi Gras,
times.
the parades come right by here, and the St. Patrick's Day is always really cool.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, you get a chance to get some green beer and some Jameson whiskey, so.
Absolutely, right? Yeah.
So,
Man, I love it. We got to spend more time on the coast. I tell you what.
Everybody does. Everybody send a word. Come on
Yeah,
down.
tell
I
'em.
guess.
Here we go. Well, we will be back for podcast part
Absolutely.
2 at some point. Again,
Absolutely.
thank you so much for joining us, and we'll just go ahead and wrap things right there. We always want to thank our listeners tuning into the Extra Mile podcast. You can watch and listen to episodes by visiting gomdot.com/the extra mile. Follow us on social media at Mississippi DOT is the handle there. We want to thank our editor, Drew Hall, who made the trek down with us, makes everything go behind the scenes. And remember to drive smart out there on Mississippi highways.